Gan Shalom Akim. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Qadash. Double honors to the Elder Apostles of Great Millstone who teach and rule well, and Shalom to the sincere Akims for his truth and sincerity. Shalom. In this video, I want to cover the book of Revelation, the ninth chapter, verse 1 all the way to verse 12. And what made me go into this lesson is this article that is in front of me, but also at the same time I was occupied and busy, with Revelation, the ninth chapter, um, concerning the GMS homework, that I'm occupying myself with. So I came across this article, or basically this, um, how you say it, this podcast, um, concerning Revelation, the ninth chapter, concerning who and what are the locusts that John saw in the book of Revelation. I listened to it for a little bit, but quickly I realized, like, hey, this is going into so many things that are not according to the scriptures. That in my spirit, I felt like I need to bring out, the correct understanding, the correct breakdown of Revelation, the ninth chapter. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Yaratazah. So this is Revelation chapter 9 and verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And in that podcast, the man said, like, okay, so the bottomless pit is actually referring to a pit that you can look in, Satan, is gonna come out of it, and all these fables, the man-made stories, which basically Christianity and such denominations, they occupy themselves with things in the scriptures that are not according to the scriptures, you know, and that bottomless pit that is talking about in the first verse is not talking about an actual pit, because if we go to Second Esdras, the fifth chapter and the 24th verse, it says, "And of all the lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit, and of all the flowers thereof, one lily." So, um, reading this verse, we understand that the Most High, He has chosen a specific piece of land upon His earth that He desires the most, that He likes the most, that He has chosen. And we know that piece of land is referring to the land of Israel, which was formerly also known as the land of Canaan, which is the land that pertains to the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but also those that were scattered among the heathen nations that might look like the heathen nations, but whose lineage does go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob according to their father's seed line. So, reading this verse, we understand that that pit actually refers to a piece of land. So, if we go back to Revelation chapter 9 verse 1, it says, "And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit." And the bottomless pit refers to Europe, because that's where the First World War took place, starting off in 1914 and ending in 1918. And Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 all the way to verse 12 cover um, historical things pertaining to the First World War. And the First World War took place in Europe, which in the scriptures is being referred to as the bottomless pit. Why is it being referred to as the bottomless pit? Because it doesn't really contain any resources. The soil lacks mineral resources, you know, crops, and things like that, don't really grow there, you know, the exotic fruits and vegetables, need to come from different places, you know. So yeah, it's a bottomless pit, man. It doesn't really bear, any fruit. You know what I'm saying? So going back to Revelation chapter 9 and 2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And this scripture shows us that it's actually talking about the First World War, because during that time they started to use bombs and things like that, which caused a lot of devastation, but it also caused a lot of smoke. So yeah. Revelation chapter 9 and verse 3, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. And you know what? What I see, you know, well, basically what I see passing by um, here and there, with certain animated series concerning uh, the Bible and the end times, you you actually see locusts that had the description of Revelation chapter 9 verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of man. So you really see that faces of man, crowns of gold, but also, as it says in verse 8, and they had hair as the hair of woman, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. So this is the description that's being given unto these locusts. But what do they do with the series and concerning the animation? They really put these characteristics. They really put them on screen. You know, creating these weird type of locusts. Meanwhile, these locusts in Revelation, the ninth chapter, don't even speak about actual locusts, because the locusts that it refers to in Revelation chapter 9 referred to the fighter dog airplanes that were being used during the First World War. So these are the locusts that the Bible speaks of, because you have to think about it. During the time that John the John the Revelator was on the island of Patmos, there were no planes, there were no things that looked like this and that had the name plane. So what did John the Revelator do? He described it to the best of his abilities with the knowledge of the world as he knew it back then. Describing what he saw in the visions that he received. He described them as locusts, as horses prepared unto battle. You know. It also says in Revelation chapter 9 and verse 3, and there came out the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And if you look at the scorpion, you see that the power of the scorpion is in the in the sting on his tail. That's where they can kill people, cause all kind of adverse side effects depending on the type of scorpion and things like that. You know, but the power of the scorpion is in his tail. that's where strength lies. And pertaining to these fighter dog airplanes, they were being mounted with machine guns. And these machine guns were most of the time they were put on the back, put in the back, and a little bit up front, a little bit up, higher up, so that they were able to shoot down other airplanes. You know, so you see them being mounted. You know, we also had these airplanes with two people um, in them. You see, so yeah, let me look at the one that I'm talking about because the majority of the airplanes that I see have the machine gun mounted up front. But I'm looking for the one that has it higher up in the back. I can't find it. But anyway, the tails of the scorpions, that had that power is uh, is referring to the machine guns that were mounted. Yeah, so what I see is all the machine guns are this one. So yeah, like I said, in these pictures, they're all in the front. These machine guns. The power, is in the machine guns, just as the scorpions in their tails. Just strike them. This is Revelation 59 and verse 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. So every man, that was ordained by the Most High to eventually bring forth, you know, um, prophet of Bahasham Yahawashi, a man of the elect, during the time of the First World War, they would not be harmed because they had to eventually bring forth, that seed that would eventually make sure that the men of the elect in the latter days would be conceived. You know, Revelation chapter 9 and 5, and to them was given that they should not kill them, that they should be tormented 5 months, and the torment was the torment of a scorpion, and he strike the men. And that 5 months actually is talking about 5 years, the time that the First World War took place, because 2000, like 1914, 1915, 1916, 19, like 1914, 1915, 1916, 1917, 1918. Those are 5 years, which those 5 months represent 5 years. Revelation chapter 9 and 6. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And if you look at the casualties, well, not really casualties, but because casualties are people that die. But if you look at the soldiers that sustained injuries or wounds, you get to see people like this, man. Faces being blown apart, you know, having half a face, not even having a nose and a mouth, losing your whole fucking jaw, you know. eventually, ending up after the war, during the war like this, makes you want to commit suicide. But certain of these men, they were so gravely injured, but the most I kept the spirit in them. The most I made sure that they wouldn't die. So this is Revelation chapter 9 and verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And the crowns like gold is referring to these Pickelhaube, these helmets that you have. Certain also were made out of gold, completely brass, like this one. That's what it's referred to these German helmets that were used by these officers and these soldiers. Because there was a difference also between certain helmets that the officers would wear, and also a difference between the soldiers. Revelation 9:8, and they had hair as the hair of woman, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And also we see here certain have, we see this is infantry officers parade. I'm gonna bring a little bit more up, because here you see, it has hair, a little bit different. This is also a general, officer of generals rank. You see, so and their teeth, whereas the teeth of lions refers to these the bullets that would be shot out of the machine guns. Verse 9, and they had breastplates, as were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And if you look up look up what the fighter dog airplanes are made of, they're made out of metal. You know, that's what it's referring to. That they had breastplates of iron, and the sound of the wings was the sound of chariots, many horses running to battle. So let me see if I can go to YouTube. Like that.
Live streaming can be tricky, and sometimes trying to find the right software.
So when it talks about and the sound of their wings was the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle, that's what's being referred to as the propeller, making sounds. Yeah, you hear multiple fighter dog planes at the same time. You get that mixed sound as if you hear a lot of horses running. You know, you see. Revelation chapter 9 verse 10, and they had tails like unto scorpions, which refers to these mini turrets, these machine guns, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. We already know, that this is talking about the machine guns in the 5 year period, that the World War took place. So this is Revelation chapter 9 and 11, and they had a king over them, which was the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, in the Greek tongue had its name Apollyon. If you look up those names, Abaddon, it goes into Abaddon's destruction, and also for Apollyon, that is the same thing. Apollyon also goes into destruction or destroyer, because these Germans, and these other European countries, they're being governed by these Edomites, man. So these Edomites who went to war during the First World War, you know, we know that Edom has been given the blessing of the sword, to destroy, rape, rob, and murder. That he was created and given the sword to take peace from the earth. That's what happened during the First World War. You know, but that king that they had over them, is Kaiser Wilhelm, with Germany and Prussia. And little fun fact is, when I just looked up for fun King of Europe during the First World War, um, the first thing that popped up was Kaiser Wilhelm II, the German emperor, but also German emperor and king of Prussia. You know, so that's something that I find quite funny. Looking up the King of Europe. But that king, is talking about Kaiser Wilhelm. Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. That woe is referring to destruction, which that's pertaining to the First World War. So one woe is past, the First World War is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. The Second World War already took place, and the Third World War is coming quickly. You know, so that was the breakdown of Revelation, the ninth chapter. Like I said, I listened to the podcast that inspired me to make this video, because I wanted to respect the power of Yahawashi and Yahawashi, and being taught by the elders, elder apostles, great Millstone on down. I wanted to bring out the correct uh, breakdown of the Book of Revelation, um, because the things that I heard already was like, I'm not even gonna listen the whole 45 minutes because I'm gonna get irritated and vexed, and I don't even know how to, because they're gonna bring certain things out, that you then also have to go into, and then that makes this video, like too long for people to find interesting to watch. So what I did, I listened to the first couple of things, and then decided, now, man, I'm just gonna make the video, you know. So your Tazad, this lesson was edifying, and I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Qadash. Double honors to the Alba Apostles, Great Millstone, who teach and rule well, and shalom to the sincere Akims, branch truth and sincerity. Shalom.